our journey into the 39 Shabbat prohibitions is kneading, or Losh in Hebrew. Previous steps may be accessed from the menu on the right of your screen. Through those previous steps, the wheat for making the lechem panim, the bread that was put in the Mishkan, or the herbs for making the dyes for the draperies, are ready to mix with water to make either into dough or to make a thick paste. The definition of Losh is combining tiny particles with liquid forming a solid or semi-solid mass. This applies only to small bits of food or particles that when are combined, they're no longer recognized individually but as one mass. When we think of kneading, we usually think of it as mixing the flour together, mixing it with your hands or with the machine. But the actual act of Losh may occur as soon as the water touches the flour or the powdery substance, because on contact with the water, the powder begins to melt into the water and form dough or a thick paste. So the mixing of a liquid with fine particles that makes dough or a thick, non-pourable mixture is prohibited on Shabbat. Now, water is not the only liquid that causes Losh to occur. Really, any liquids, including juice, baby formula, oil, and even some include coagulated liquids such as mayonnaise. Powder or fine particles that are subject to Losh include, of course, flour, but also breadcrumbs, farina, some cereals, instant potato or oatmeal flakes, and some may include very fine ground eggs, tuna, or chopped liver. They're very fine particles. So how does this apply to our Shabbat activities? Making mashed potatoes or oatmeal from dehydrated powders would be problematic on Shabbat, since these are making a thick mixture. When making baby cereals or pudding, it's possible to add more than the usual amount of liquid, so it's not quite as thick and it becomes a pourable batter-like mixture. It would be permitted on Shabbat to make this mixture if it were mixed up in a manner that's done a little bit differently than how it's done during the week. So if you usually put the powder into the bowl and then you add the liquid to it, on Shabbat you would put the liquid in the bowl first and then you would add the powder. And then you would also want to mix it up in a little bit different way, stirring it with the handle of a spoon, or you can stir it in a crisscross pattern instead of the usual circular stirring. And this is another great discussion that you can have with your rabbi when you start thinking about the specific things that you're doing in your own home on Shabbat. It is also permitted to make egg salad, tuna salad, coleslaw, or any other salads on Shabbat by adding mayonnaise or any kind of salad dressing, even if it makes a thick mixture, because the pieces of eggs or the tuna or the vegetables are still easily distinguishable in the mixture, so the solids are not really melted together into the liquid. There's no prohibition on mixing a liquid and powder together if it's going to make a thin liquid mixture. If you're going to add some chocolate to your milk, or make instant coffee or instant tea. There's also other powdered flavorings that can be added to water, and since the mixture is very thin, there's no problem with doing that on Shabbat. It's also permitted to add a liquid to a very thick mixture in order to loosen it or to thin it out, because the Torah prohibition here is on making a thick mixture. Now, Losh also applies to non-foods, so it would be prohibited on Shabbat to make mud with very fine sand, mixing it with water, or mix up plaster, or any liquid and powder mixture. Though so far much of this does not really seem like it's what we think of when we think of kneading. Usually we think of kneading as manipulating the dough with our hands to improve it, with rolling it out, braiding it. All of those are also included in Losh. And since Losh does apply to non-food items, that would include modeling clay or Play-Doh. So these are two items that you would want to discourage your children from playing with on Shabbat. There are a lot of details in these Melachot, and what we need to remember is that when we're resting, on Shabbat, we're declaring that Hashem is the one who owns the world, and by relinquishing our ownership of it and not manipulating any of these things for our own purposes, that is the main purpose of Shabbat. That's what we are really resting from. It also keeps our minds rested so that we are not thinking about things that we need to do for ourselves, so we can end up focusing on Hashem. So don't get discouraged on your journey. Take it slow, adding little by little as it's comfortable to fit in with your Shabbat observance. Don't push yourself and get frustrated. You may also have other family members that are not really ready for this, so move slowly with it. And keep the focus on enhancing your relationship with Hashem. Every one of His instructions or commandments, the mitzvot, they're all an opportunity for connecting with Hashem. We have intermittent opportunities every day for these connections. The prayers that we do when we wake up in the morning, connecting to Him mindfully when we say our blessings, and our formal times of prayer. Every mitzvah is a chance to connect and enhance our relationship. So these are intermittent during the week, but Shabbat is different. We have an opportunity to connect with our Creator on Shabbat. We have an opportunity for a full 25 hours of connection with the Almighty, since we're focusing on mitzvot throughout the day. So continue on your journey of connection and continue to connect with torchweb.org.